want you to have a listen to this. Students talking about their homework.
I spend around an hour and a half. About 10 minutes of studying, maybe a bit more, and then the rest is all on written work. A bit too much, because I think that after coming home from school, it can be a bit tiring going back for an hour and a half of homework, and then by the time you're done, it's 7 o'clock or a bit earlier.
I go to study, so I will be 2 hours in there, and then I might do an extra hour at home.
I would spend about maybe 2.5 hours or so.
I deliberately spend around an hour and a half. Well, first I do my homework, and then I spend the rest of the time studying for Christmas tests and for the work. I am very tired, but I have to do it if I want to do it.
I think we get too much homework. Like an hour and a half on like the written homework, and then if I have a test, I like to study.
Well, it would take me like maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, like, because I want to get everything right.
About an hour and a half. Most of it is studying because I don't get much written homework. Yeah, I do get tired, but I think it's important to learn.
Oh, it's just stress of doing it, and I don't know, it's just that it can be really boring sometimes.
There you heard students of St. Raphaela's Secondary School at St. Benilda's College here in Dublin giving their opinions on homework, and as you heard there, a lot of them saying, please, no more, too much. But is it? Are pupils coming home with simply too much homework? Is there a point in homework at all? To answer these questions and yours, we're joined by Dr. Naoisé O'Reilly, who is an education facilitator and founder of the Homework Club in Blanchardstown. And Naoisé knows a thing or two about the difficulty of learning and studying, as she has severe dyslexia. Very welcome to the programme. Naoisé, thanks for coming in. I suppose you should start by telling me about the Homework Club. What are you all about?
I set up the Homework Club almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years in February 2009. I initially set it up for secondary school students. Really, it was to try out all the wacky ideas in my head. I thought we could learn in a very different way because I did myself because I'm severely dyslexic. So I was kind of told I couldn't do lots of things in school, but did exceptionally well, got a very good leaving cert, went on to college, got a first, have a doctorate. So I've kind of proved the impossible. And very quickly, we started working with primary school students as well. So now we have a spectrum of students from the age of 6 right through to adults returning to education. So we have a huge spectrum of people that we work with. Some of the people have learning difficulties, quite a lot don't. And some of them have learning difficulties that have never been recognised.
All in the same class?
All in the same school. We have a lot of different classes happening. I haven't counted them recently. There's probably 40-odd classes happening a week at this stage.
Right, but everybody mixed in together?
Yes, I don't believe in having levels of ordinary level or higher level, and I don't believe in segregating people by ages. So I do an interview with the students before they start, and we very much match people on their personality where they need to be. Yeah. Some people like to be at the top of the group, some people like to be bottom and be challenged, and then it's a matter of the Lego blocks that you're missing in the subjects, what we're trying to do, and what skills we're trying to build up.
Now you think, am I right in saying this, you think that homework should be scrapped?
Yes, I think in the way that it is at the moment, yes. This is something that's come out of the school, but also recently I ran a workshop for Aspire, and during that workshop it was to support parents supporting their children at home. A lot of the parents would have been on the autism spectrum or had Aspergers. So that's the sort of children they're supporting at home, and homework is a huge contentious issue. So I asked during this interactive workshop, why did we do homework? And the answers I got back were a little scary. It was a lot more to do with judging what was happening in school and what the teachers were doing in the class than actually the students actually evaluating their own learning or progressing or doing anything sort of constructive. And then within the school, I kind of find that the students are so stressed out about the homework that they have to get done for the next day that we find it very hard to get space to actually have them learn the things that we need them to learn. It's kind of Monday to Thursday, mad panic, go to school, come home, spend hours working, take a short break for dinner, go back upstairs, study, and possibly take a bit of Friday evening off, and then quite a large part of Saturday and Sunday back to doing homework. And this is even for quite young students of 6 and 7. I'm finding that the parents are stepping in to help, particularly if you have any sort of learning difficulty such as dyslexia. The parents are having to step in to do a lot of reading and writing work at home. And that's the assumption made that parents can always do that as well, which they can't, because a quarter of the people in this country have a literacy difficulty. So there's at least a quarter of the students being sent home where there isn't anybody to support them to do that. My own parents couldn't have supported me to do that, especially my father.
But some people can.
Some people can
help, and some people want to help, and some people don't want to help. And there'd be an argument to say that actually parents rather, should interact with their children with their homework and help them. It's one way of forming a bond apart from anything else.
I think there's better ways of forming a bond.
But just before you tell me about that, but I mean, is the whole point of homework not to refresh what you've learned during the day?
Well, that depends on how you're learning it. At the moment, I think it's very much about repeating what you've done during the day, which is very much the idea that how you learn is by learning things off. And my argument is that we never set homework out of the homework club, because essentially what we do is we teach in 4 different ways. And we have visual, auditory, practical, and kinesthetic learning, basically. And so there's something for everybody in the group. And they're very engaged in a lesson. They're very much learning how to work the way that they need to work in the way that suits them. And then what happens is they're so engaged in the classes that they really take the information on, and they take on a way of learning, which, you know, it's not reading and writing. It's something much bigger than that. And it means that when they go away, they don't have to go away and learn it off. So homework shouldn't be about learning it off and writing things out over and over.
You're not assuming that all of your pupils are going to be paying the utmost attention in your class.
Well, they do. Well, this is the difference. And this is the big difference from the classroom environment. Like, even the photograph that was included with the article in the Examiner last week was your conventional classroom, tables laid out in rows, chairs completely separate. It was don't interact, don't talk, don't move around the room. That's not what we do in the homework club. We have square tables, everybody participates. It doesn't matter if we're trying to teach you the alphabet or hardcore physics or biology, we're probably going to bring Play-Doh in for the practical people to actually make it and be part of it. We write directly on the tables. So that people are really engaged in actually getting to try the maths problems themselves. It's not just a case of the teacher writes up on the board how to do this and the students take it down and then they go home and try it for themselves. They're actually trying it in the environment, so there's no need for us to...
It's a case of understanding it.
Yeah, it's a case of understanding it, and there's no need for them to go home and write it out 10 times.
But I imagine if you've got people at different levels of ability in the one class, that gets a little bit messy, no?
I hate that idea of levels of ability.
Well, okay, you tell me what it is. I've never been there. I don't have kids. I don't know what
I think this is one of the things that's kind of come out of the debate for me, is this idea that only some people can be academic. I believe that everybody can be academic, because if I could do it, anybody can do it. And that's being honest. Like, my reading and writing is still not any better than a 9-year-old's. And yet I have done very well academically, but I've just worked in a very different way. So it's not about some people just being able to do it or people being at different ability levels. And I really particularly hate the argument when someone's only 6 and you're trying to teach them the alphabet and you talk about ability. You're not trying to teach them chaos theory, you're just trying to teach them the alphabet. And some people will learn that differently. Okay,
well, what about exam times? So people are cramming the study, and they're going to the institute. I see them down there in Leeson Street, and they're paying an absolute arm and a leg to get extra classes and extra study in, so they'll be prepared for those blooming exams and they'll pass them, because, excuse me, they need them to get the exam, or to get the exam and get the points to go on to college.
Yeah, it's particularly obvious to me that there isn't a sort of a coherent structure coming out of school around homework, particularly in the junior cert and leaving cert year, because people are constantly being set homework. And this is even happening in other years. Like, a lot of our other classes now would have started their Christmas tests in school, and they're still doing homework right up to the button on whatever they're doing in class, but they're not actually being given space to revise the topics for the tests. And similarly, like, if you're in a junior cert or leaving cert year, you'll sort of stay in school for after school study time. You'll maybe do your homework during that. Then you're expected to come home and do revision time. And what I find is even very conscientious students who are doing 4 and 5 hours work in evening constantly feel like they're not doing enough, because there's no coherent plan across the subjects of what you should be doing. And it's still not really looking at the key topics, like, how did you answer the questions? What questions are coming out in the exam paper? What do the exam words mean? How do you have structure in writing? How do you get your points down best in history versus geography or English? What's the best quote to use? How is the best way for you to remember the quote from 30 poems on the Leaving Cert English course? So it's not really addressing those issues.
So you tell me how exactly you teach that.
Well, the 30 poems on the English Leaving Cert course, what we do is... you basically you talk a lot about themes in the poems, so you pick out what the main thing is about. You draw a little picture beside the poems to represent it. So there was one that's on our blog from last year where there's a guy walking along, he meets a butterfly and a flower, so you have a flower, you have a butterfly, and that's kind of succinctly man walking along. You have the whole poem, and then you remember one line to do with the butterfly, and it's done. So you only have to remember 3 pictures for a whole poem and 1 line. And you can remember 30 pictures quite easily, rather than 30 whole poems of Leaving Cert English course.
So that's only just a trick to improve your memory, or how to remember things.
Well, it's a trick.
Are you understanding it?
It's a trick. It's a trick.
You were talking about understanding.
Yeah, you're understanding the theme, you're understanding what the poem's actually about, quite often, like particularly in Shakespeare, in Leaving Cert English, one of the most difficult things to understand is the English in Shakespeare. The concepts are not that difficult, so sometimes we actually rewrite out parts of the Shakespeare in common everyday slang English, and you talk about them and they make sense. And that's essentially what you're trying to do. We can do the entire Shakespeare course in stickmen as well. You have just a stickmen, action men, so-and-so died, so-and-so's killed them, they've used a sword, they've used poison, whatever. It's all the same main themes that crop up in every Shakespeare play. Someone always has to die.
Actually, I think that was the way I learned. Somebody died, somebody killed them, blah, 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 move on next.
Yeah.
Talk to me about purple learning.
Well, essentially what the Purple Learning Project is, I kind of need an identity. I set up the Homework Club as a tuition centre really to kind of try out my ideas and to prove that they could work, and for a whole spectrum of people. So the Purple Learning Project is about having an identity for the learning method that we developed. So it's the 4 learning styles, and essentially what we want to do, rather than have zillions of homework clubs all around the country, what we would like to do is to take the ideas that we've developed back out into the school system, and to start to do workshops with teachers and parents and other organisations such as Aspire and Dyslexia Association, people like that, so that everybody starts to think differently. I think for me, my big problem in this is that everybody's kind of in their own camp. Like the dyslexics want you to do one thing, the people with Aspergers would like you to do something different, and then people who have visual impairments or hearing impairments or something different again, and then you just have the students who are very kinesthetic, who are brilliant on the sports field but rubbish in school with all the other languages. And what I'm really trying to do is develop a very simple learning method that works for everybody and that's easily done and easily keeps everybody happy, rather than just constantly taking people aside and trying to fix their little bit.
So you want to change the way we're being taught in schools?
Totally.
Well, do you think you're going to have any success?
Well, I'm getting there. I've achieved a lot in under 3 years.
So how many schools are actually teaching your methods?
At the moment, I couldn't say. We're certainly,
any?
I've certainly had meetings with 2 schools so far who are very interested. I've had a lot of meetings with the Finnish ambassador, who's Finland are very interested in taking my research over to Finland. They're more interested in the moment than Ireland are, but we'll get there in the end.
So what are they doing at the moment that's different to what we're doing?
In Finland, Finland seems to have one of the best education systems in Europe. They have a lot less contact time. They have a huge emphasis on family life. So they wouldn't be sending people home to do hours and hours of homework. They don't have as long a school time as we do. They tend to work far more efficiently. They have given a lot of responsibility over, and there's a lot of respect for the individual schools and teachers, which is something that's really missing in Ireland. So each school is actually allowed to set their own curriculum and their own syllabus. It's not a state government decision from a central location. So each school has a lot more say in what they're doing. And that's why something such as the Purple Learning Project would be a lot easier to implement in somewhere like Finland.
Well, we went on to the frequently asked questions on the Department of Education and Skills website. And the question there was, one of the questions, will my child have to do homework? And they say, the department, on Riley Duckish, schools set their own policy in relation to homework. For example, in some schools, children from 1st to 6th class are given homework each week, night. Other schools give a small amount of reading or maths to infant classes. If your child does get homework, you should give them space and encouragement to do it. If they need it, offer your help. Take time to talk with your child about what they do in school each day. And then they go on and go on and go on. And that seems quite sensible and reasonable to me.
Yeah, well, the difficulty is that when I asked this question in a workshop recently, I asked parents, their thoughts on homework. They sort of felt that it was almost like there was a small percentage of the room expected homework to be set. And some teachers have come back and said this to me as well, that if they don't set a lot of homework, that parents feel like that there's nothing happening in the class, that it's almost like a benchmark to decide what you've done, rather than how the students are really doing. So I think there's far more interesting tasks that you could be given to be done at home, even sitting around the kitchen table and debating politics at the end of the evening, or cooking is really important. And there's lots of project work I did when I was in my own primary school in one of the Educate Together schools. It's really great because that does set up the idea of you having a schedule and doing a task, but it was in a more realistic time frame and there's a lot less pressure. And it also made you sort of join up topics across subjects. So you would be sort of looking at a topic in terms of geography and history and maybe a little bit of science, a little bit of English. And making the links.
Yeah, that is very important.
So those, we should be teaching independent learning and research skills and time management and all of these good tasks out of this. That's why we traditionally wanted to set homework. But in its current state, that's not what's happening.
Have you spoken to that minister?
No, not yet.
Are you hoping to?
Yes, it's on the plan.
Have you written to him?
No, not yet.
Do it today. There's never been a better time. Write it on the desk there, and then you can. Brendan, you have children, so come on, tell me.
I do. Oh, it's fascinating what you're saying, and it's very interesting because right now as we're speaking, I know there are thousands of families and there are thousands of people sitting around the table doing their homework because this is the time to do it. In my experience, you know, it's all subjective. It depends on the teacher. Some teachers, as you say, don't give any homework. Some teachers give loads. It depends on the child. Some child could be very quick. Another child might take ages and all of that. And it can be a very stressful item at home. What I find particularly, and I know the teachers driving over going, oh, here she goes again, when they come in from school, you know, they give so much in the classroom and so much energy and thought, and their brains are concentrating and everything, that they're kind of nearly worn out. And then maybe they didn't get picked for something, or somebody didn't play with them, and there's kind of all the ups and downs. That's a very difficult hour when kids come in from school, whether they're in secondary or primary or whatever. They kind of need to adjust and rebalance and wind down and have a snack or whatever it is. And kind of then, when they're all settled, rather than, I often see people coming in and saying, do the homework straight away, so it's done. Now that's fine on a nice day, but they don't happen that often, and they go out and play. But, you know, they need that little wind down time, get a little bit settled, and off they go. And I always find, and I don't know if their parents listening will find this, I find Thursday nights are terribly busy with homework because there's spelling tests, there's Irish spelling, English spelling, there's rivers, there's European capitals, list. It's a very busy night, Thursday night, and then if they don't get it all done, they get worked up and I get worked up. And it's very hard to kind of manage, you know, to show that you're calm. So you give that to your child so they'll be calm about it. So I think that's one of the skills that parents need to learn a lot. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, it is. Like, it's very much dependent on the individual. Like,
yeah, it's very subjective.
I always worked better in the mornings, for instance. So I was one of those odd people who got up very early before school and did a lot of work at sort of 6 o'clock in the morning. And I always did the same when I was in college, and particularly for exams and that sort of thing. So there is this assumption that people work better in the evenings. But like it's really important for us to do all the other activities like the sports and the drama and the dancing and the art and all the other things that we want to find what we're good at and what we're interested at. And one of the things I've kind of noticed is that people have stopped doing all of those things because of the pressures on homework. And particularly when I interview students at 15, they don't have any outside activities or any outside interests at that stage left in life. So I've kind of given them all up for study. So it is like it's
but
very much
the rat race we're in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get into college and you want to get into the course that you want, your preferred choice, you have to study hard to get those exams.
It's not about studying hard, it's about studying effectively. So if we go back
you were talking about getting up early and studying in the morning.
Yes, but it's about studying effectively. Like, I probably wouldn't have done that many hours work. I probably would have only done an hour's work maximum. So if you're talking about these sort of rivers and the geography things that you're trying to learn off, for example, not everybody learns that off out of a list of words. So if you suddenly sort of draw all the rivers out on a piece of paper, which is a little bit more fun, and then label them, it suddenly becomes a bit more interesting. And so this is one of the things I was doing in the workshop, was actually trying to make homework more interesting and more fun, and getting people to actually search the internet for Google for pictures and YouTube for video clips, and sort of make it a bit more interactive and a bit more interesting.
Well, anyway, you've started the big debate, so thank you very much indeed. We have tons of emails and text messages here. I'm not going to get a chance to read them all. I may do so tomorrow, but thank you for sending them in nonetheless. Anisha, thank you for coming in. Your website is www.homeworkclub.ie.
Yes, that's right.
So if people are looking for more information, they might want to visit that website, or go to our website, which is rte.ie/Mooney. Nisha, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.